The Galactic Council chamber was packed with worried aliens from every corner of the known universe. Holographic screens floated in the air, showing the same terrifying image over and over. A massive mining station tumbling through space, completely out of control. Its destination was clear. Theta 7, a peaceful moon where 5 million people lived their quiet lives, unaware that death was racing toward them. Ambassador Vrel stood at the center podium, his blue scales shimmering under the bright lights. He was old, respected, and right now, absolutely terrified. His voice cracked as he spoke into the microphone. 72 hours. That's all we have. In 3 days, the mining station will crash into Theta 7. Everyone there will die. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. An insect-like delegate clicked its mandibles nervously. A floating creature pulsed with dim, worried light. General Korth, covered in thick armor plating, slammed his fist on his desk. Then we blow it up. Launch missiles. Destroy it before impact. The chamber's chief scientist, a being that looked like a jellyfish swimming through air, drifted forward. Its name was Pool, and its voice came from a translator box that made it sound sad and hollow. We cannot. The station's reactor is unstable. If we attack it, the reactor will explode. The blast will be so powerful it will sterilize 3 entire star systems. Billions will die instead of millions. The chamber fell silent. You could hear the hum of the air recyclers and the nervous breathing of 100 different species. There must be another way, someone shouted from the back. Pool's body flickered with dark colors. There is one theoretical possibility. Someone could board the station manually. Go inside. Reach the reactor core. Shut it down from within. Hope sparked in a few eyes. Then Pool continued. However, the approach is through an active debris field. Thousands of metal chunks spinning at incredible speeds. The station's automated defense system is still active. It will shoot at anything that comes close. And the radiation levels inside are lethal to all known species. Our computers have run the simulations 10,000 times. Pool paused as if the next words hurt to say. Survival probability is 0.003%. Mathematically, it is impossible. Everyone who attempts this mission will die. The hope died as quickly as it had appeared. Delegates slumped in their seats. Some covered their faces. Others stared at the hologram of Theta 7, at the cities glowing on its surface, knowing they were about to watch them vanish. We must begin evacuation procedures, Vrel said quietly. Save who we can. Prepare compensation for the families. Alert the neighboring systems. They were giving up. 5 million lives, written off as acceptable losses because mathematics said there was no other choice. That's when a hand went up in the back of the chamber. Everyone turned to look. Standing there was Captain Emma Reynolds, wearing a greasy jumpsuit that had seen better days. She was human, part of the newest species to join the Galactic Council. Her ship, the Lucky Break, was a beat-up salvage vessel that barely qualified as spaceworthy. Behind her stood 4 more humans, all looking equally scruffy and out of place among the polished diplomats. We'll do it, Emma said. Her voice was calm, like she'd just volunteered to pick up groceries. The chamber erupted in confused chatter. Vrel's translator made a sound like it was choking. Captain Reynolds, perhaps you did not understand the briefing? This mission means certain death. The probability of survival is 0.003%. Yeah, I heard you. Emma smiled, and it wasn't a scared smile or a sad smile. It was confident. That's not 0. That's a chance. A chance? It's practically nothing. Tom Parker, Emma's second-in-command, stepped forward. He was a big man with kind eyes and hands that looked like they'd rebuilt 1,000 broken machines. Look, we get it. The math says we die. But someone's gotta try, right? But why? Vrel's voice rose high with emotion. Why would you throw away your lives when the outcome is certain? Emma looked up at the hologram again. She thought about the 5 million people down there. Kids playing in parks. Parents coming home from work. Old folks sitting on porches watching the sunset. All of them about to die because everyone else had decided mathematics mattered more than trying. She reached into her jacket and pulled out a bottle of beer. The amber liquid sloshed inside. She took a long drink, then set it carefully on the nearest console. Hold my beer, she said. The aliens stared at the bottle like it was a religious artifact from a lost civilization. Jack Morrison, the team's pilot, grinned wide. He was young, reckless, and had the kind of smile that suggested he'd survived things he probably shouldn't have. It's a human saying. Means we're about to do something really, really stupid. Then why say it before doing the stupid thing? Vrel asked desperately. Because, Emma said, already heading for the door, her crew following behind her. Stupid is kind of our specialty. The council's preparation bay looked like something from a science fiction dream. Gleaming equipment lined the walls, each piece precisely labeled and tested. White-coated technicians moved with careful precision, handling each tool like it might explode. Everything was sterile, organized, and absolutely perfect. Ambassador Vrel stood proudly beside a table covered with advanced gear. We have prepared the finest equipment in the galaxy for your mission. This radiation suit has 17 layers of protective shielding. This scanner can detect structural weaknesses from half a kilometer away. This plasma cutter can slice through any known metal. And these communication devices. Yeah, we're good, Emma interrupted, waving her hand dismissively. Vrel blinked. Good? You have not even looked at the equipment. Don't need it. Emma turned to her crew. Mike, you got the supplies? Mike Davis, the team's engineer, rolled up pushing a battered metal cart. It squeaked with every rotation of its wheels. On top sat a pile of items that made the alien technicians physically recoil in horror. Duct tape. Lots of duct tape. A welding torch that looked older than some of the council members. A toolbox held together with wire and hope. A handful of zip ties. Some rope. 3 cans of spray lubricant. And a rubber mallet with "Problem Solver" written on it in permanent marker. This is your equipment? Vrel's voice came out as a squeak. This is garbage. This is survival gear, Mike corrected, patting the duct tape affectionately. Fixed more hull breaches with this tape than I can count. The duct tape is rated for low-pressure environments only. It will fail in hard vacuum. Hasn't yet, Mike said cheerfully. Lisa Chen, the team's security officer, was already suiting up. She ignored the advanced council armor and instead wore her standard gear. Reinforced clothing, magnetic boots, and a tool belt that jangled with random implements. Tom was reviewing the mission plan the council had prepared. It was 300 pages long with detailed algorithms for every possible scenario. He flipped through it for exactly 45 seconds, then tossed it in a recycling bin. Hey, that took our best tactical minds 6 hours to prepare, shouted a horrified council officer. Too complicated, Tom said. We'll figure it out when we get there. Figure it out? The officer's eyes bulged. You need calculations, trajectory algorithms, predictive modeling for debris field navigation, response protocols for system failures. Jack Morrison was already in the pilot's seat of their shuttle, running pre-flight checks. Well, checking was a generous word. He was mostly just flipping switches and listening to see if anything sounded wrong. Engines sound good, Jack announced. You did not run diagnostics, a council technician protested, waving a data pad frantically. The computer shows structural stress on the port thruster mount. The heat shielding has microfractures. The navigation computer is running on outdated software. Yeah, she's got some issues, Jack agreed, patting the control panel like it was a loyal dog. But she'll hold together. Always does. The probability of catastrophic failure during atmospheric stress is. Don't care about probability. Jack grinned and cranked up the shuttle's sound system. Ancient Earth rock music blasted through the speakers, loud enough to rattle loose panels. The council observers watched in mounting horror as Mike began modifying the shuttle. He welded extra plates onto the hull, not where the stress calculation said they should go, but where his gut told him they'd be useful. He rerouted power conduits in ways that made the safety computer scream warnings. He disabled 3 different automated systems because, in his words, they just get in the way. This is insane. Vrel shouted over the music. Every modification you make weakens the structural integrity. My computer says the ship will tear itself apart. Your computer worries too much, Mike said, applying another strip of duct tape to a seam that the computer classified as critical failure point. Emma emerged from the cargo bay carrying her own supplies. The council had offered her a command suite with holographic displays and AI assistance. She'd grabbed a paper notebook and a pencil instead. You are not serious, Vrel said weakly. Paper doesn't crash, Emma replied. The council's medical team approached with scanners, wanting to take baseline readings of the human's vital signs before the mission. They expected elevated heart rates, stress hormones, fear responses. These were people about to fly into certain death. Instead, the readings showed the humans were relaxed. Calm. Their heart rates were actually decreasing as launch time approached. This makes no sense, the chief medical officer exclaimed. All species show fear responses when facing death. Your biology should be flooding you with panic hormones. Lisa laughed while checking her equipment. Oh, we're scared. We're just excited too. Excited? To die. Excited to try, Tom corrected. There's a difference. Jack started the launch sequence. The shuttle's engines roared to life with a sound that definitely wasn't in the manufacturer's specifications. Something rattled. Something else hissed. The whole craft shook like it might fall apart right there in the hangar. Perfection, Jack declared. Your ship is falling apart. Vrel cried. Emma climbed into her seat and strapped in. She looked at the hologram of Theta 7 one more time, at all those lives depending on people the galaxy had decided were too reckless to trust. Control, this is Lucky Break. Requesting permission to launch. Permission denied. Vrel shouted. You are not ready. You need proper equipment. Training. Planning. Emma looked at her crew. They were all grinning like idiots. Like this was the best day of their lives instead of probably their last. We're ready enough, she said and gave Jack the nod. The shuttle launched in a blast of fire and music, leaving behind a group of aliens who couldn't decide if humans were heroes or completely insane. The shuttle rocketed away from the council station, leaving a trail of sparks that probably shouldn't have been there. Inside the cockpit, old Earth rock music blasted from crackling speakers while Jack hummed along, his hands relaxed on the controls. Mission Control's voice crackled through the radio, tight with anxiety. Lucky Break, you are approaching the debris field. Recommend immediate course correction. Plot course Alpha 79er for safest passage. Jack glanced at the radar screen showing thousands of metal chunks spinning through space like a minefield of death. Each piece was moving fast enough to punch through their hull like paper. The safe route Mission Control suggested would add 2 hours to their journey. 2 hours they didn't have. Yeah, got a better idea, Jack said. Then he pushed the throttle forward and aimed straight into the thickest part of the debris field. The radio exploded with alien voices all screaming at once. Negative. Abort. You will be destroyed. Probably not, Jack replied cheerfully. Emma sat in the co-pilot seat watching the radar with calm eyes. Left side looks heavy. Swing right. Copy that, boss. The shuttle dove and twisted, Jack's hands dancing across the controls like he was playing a musical instrument. A chunk of metal the size of a car spun past their window, close enough to see the rivets. Another piece came from below. Jack rolled the shuttle and it missed by centimeters. Collision probability 98%. Mission Control shouted. Your trajectory is suicide. Their computer's math is pretty good, Tom commented from the back, not looking up from the equipment he was checking. Yep, Jack agreed, jerking the stick hard left to avoid 3 pieces of debris at once. But computers can't do what I'm about to do. He saw it coming, a gap in the debris, but it was closing fast as 2 large sections spun toward each other. The computer said it was impossible to fit through. The computer didn't account for Jack Morrison's absolutely unreasonable confidence. The shuttle shot through the gap with half a second to spare. Metal scraped along their starboard side with a scream that made everyone's teeth hurt. Hull breach on deck 2, Lisa reported calmly. Patch it, Emma said. Already on it. Mike was down in the cargo bay with his faithful duct tape, slapping it over the crack while air whistled out into space. There we go, baby. All better. Back at the council station, Ambassador Vrel watched the shuttle's telemetry with all 4 of his hearts pounding. How are they still alive? The ship should be debris by now. The chief scientist's pool flickered with confused colors. Their piloting exceeds known physical reaction times. It is impossible. Maybe you should tell them that, muttered a junior officer. The shuttle burst through the far side of the debris field, battered but intact. Jack let out a whoop of joy. Debris field cleared, Emma reported. Station in sight. And there it was. The mining station tumbled slowly against the stars, dark and dead except for the ominous red glow coming from its reactor core. It looked like a sleeping monster waiting to wake up. Lucky Break, the station's automated defense grid is still active, Mission Control warned. It will fire on any approaching vessel. Our battle cruisers could not penetrate its defenses. You must retreat, Anne. Red lights bloomed across their sensor screen. Targeting lasers locked onto them. They're shooting at us, Tom observed. Rude, Lisa added. The first laser blast sizzled past their bow. The second one hit their rear shield, making the whole shuttle shake. Warning alarms started screaming. Shields at 60%, Emma called out. Mike, you got that thing ready? Jack yelled, twisting the shuttle into evasive maneuvers. Almost. Give me 30 seconds. I'll give you 20. Mike was in the cargo bay, surrounded by wires he'd ripped out of their microwave, the shuttle's secondary power cell, and what looked like a toaster. He'd somehow connected them all together with electrical tape and hope. "This is either going to work or electrocute me," he muttered. "Try not to die before the mission," Lisa shouted from the doorway. "No promises." Another laser blast rocked the shuttle. Shields dropped to 40%. The station was getting closer, its defense turrets tracking their every move. Mike connected the last wire. Sparks flew. The lights in the shuttle dimmed as power drained from every system into his makeshift device. "Fire it," Emma ordered. Mike slammed his hand down on the trigger he'd rigged from a kitchen timer. The electromagnetic pulse erupted from their shuttle in an invisible wave. It hit the station's defense grid like a hammer. Turrets sparked and died. Targeting systems went dark. The red targeting lasers vanished. Mission control was silent for a moment. Then, how did you disable the defense grid? That system was hardened against electromagnetic attacks. "We hit it really hard," Mike explained as if that made perfect sense. "That is not a technical explanation." "Sure it is." The victory celebration was short-lived. Half their own systems had died too. Navigation was offline. Long-range communications were dead. Life support was flickering. "Well, that's not ideal," Jack said, looking at the sea of red warning lights. "Can you dock without navigation?" Emma asked. "Can I dock without navigation?" she asks. Jack grinned. "Boss, I once landed a cargo hauler with no engines, no computers, and no landing gear. I've got this." He aimed for a damaged section of the station where the hull had been torn open like a giant had taken a bite out of it. No proper airlock, no docking clamps, just a ragged hole leading into darkness. "This is not a designated docking port." Mission Control protested. "It is now," Jack replied. He brought the shuttle in hot, killing their forward momentum at the last second. Metal screeched against metal. Sparks showered across their windscreen. The shuttle came to a stop wedged halfway into the station's damaged hull. "We have docked," Jack announced. "Sort of." Lisa was already at the airlock, checking her gear. Tom sealed his helmet. Mike grabbed his toolbox and the remainder of the duct tape. Emma stood, pulling on her gloves. Through the torn hull she could see into the station. Dark corridors. Flickering emergency lights. And somewhere deep inside, the reactor that was going to kill 5 million people if they failed. "Radiation levels are off the charts," Tom reported, checking his scanner. "We've got maybe an hour before we're cooked." "Then we better hurry," Emma said. She kicked open the damaged airlock door. It groaned and fell off its hinges with a crash that echoed through the dead station. "After you," she said. They stepped into the darkness, knowing they were walking into a death trap. Behind them, Mission Control could only watch and wait, unable to help, unable to look away. The inside of the mining station was a nightmare painted in flickering red emergency lights. The humans stepped through twisted corridors where walls had buckled and ceiling panels hung by sparking wires. Somewhere deep in the structure, metal groaned like a living thing in pain. "Radiation levels increasing," Tom said, watching his scanner's numbers climb. "We're getting cooked slowly." "How slowly?" Lisa asked, her flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. "We've got about 50 minutes. Maybe less. Then we move fast." Emma checked her paper map against the station layout. The reactor core was 3 levels down and half a kilometer away. In a functioning station that would be a 10-minute walk. In this wreck it might as well be on another planet. They moved through a corridor where the gravity had failed. Tools and debris floated in the air like strange fish. Mike pushed himself forward using handholds, his toolbox clanging against his hip. "I miss gravity," he muttered. They found it again in the next section, but it was wrong. Instead of pulling down, it pulled sideways. They had to walk on what used to be a wall while chairs and tables stuck out horizontally like bizarre art. "Station's rotation is messed up," Jack observed, walking at an odd angle. The crash must have knocked it spinning. A door ahead was sealed shut, its control panel dead and dark. "Stand back," Lisa said. She didn't bother trying to hack it or find an override. She just kicked it. Once, twice, 3 times. On the 4th kick, the door's mechanism broke and it slid open with a tortured squeal. "Subtle," Tom grinned. "Effective," Lisa corrected. They emerged into a large chamber that must have been a cargo bay. It was chaos. Crates had broken open, spilling their contents across the floor. Chemical fires burned in the corners, feeding on whatever they could find. The air was thick with smoke. And something was moving in the shadows. "Contact," Lisa whispered, her hand going to the plasma cutter on her belt. Red lights appeared in the darkness. 1 pair. Then 2. Then 5. Defense drones, still following their last programming, destroy all intruders. The drones emerged from the smoke, their weapons charging with a high-pitched whine. They were the size of dogs, all sharp angles and gun barrels. Run or fight? Jack asked. Neither, Mike said. He walked straight toward the nearest drone. Mike, what are you? The drone fired. Mike dove left, the blast scorching the wall behind him. He came up running and swung his toolbox like a baseball bat. It connected with the drone's sensor array with a satisfying crunch. The drone spun, confused. Mike hit it again. And again. Then he pulled out his wrench and started whacking random panels. Die. Reboot. Whatever. Mike shouted, hammering away. The drone's lights flickered from red to yellow to green. It stopped trying to kill him and just sat there, beeping softly. Made a friend. Mike patted its dented hull. Come on, Sparky. The drone rolled after him like a loyal puppy. When the other drones moved to attack, Sparky positioned itself between them and the humans, beeping aggressively. Did you just reprogram a killer robot by hitting it? Lisa asked. I prefer to think I fixed it, Mike replied proudly. They kept moving, Sparky rolling along behind them. The little drone proved useful, its sensors detecting weak floors before they could step through them and its manipulator arm prying open doors that were jammed shut. The deeper they went, the worse it got. They crawled through a section where fire burned in zero gravity, flames forming perfect spheres that floated like deadly balloons. They climbed through a shaft where the walls were so hot their gloves started smoking. They crossed a bridge where the metal groaned with every step, threatening to drop them into a chasm of twisted machinery. 30 minutes, Tom warned, his voice tight. Finally, they reached it. A massive door marked with radiation warnings in 12 different languages. Beyond it lay the reactor core, the heart of the station. The source of all their problems. And the door was sealed with a lock that required 3 separate authorization codes they didn't have. We could cut through, Lisa suggested, examining the door's thick construction. Would take about 20 minutes. We don't have 20 minutes, Emma said. Mike stepped forward, studying the lock. You know what? Sometimes the sophisticated approach is overrated. He pulled out his rubber mallet, the one labeled Problem Solver. You're going to hit it? Tom asked. I'm going to hit it scientifically. Mike examined the lock's control panel, found a specific spot, and swung the mallet with precision. Something inside the mechanism crunched. He hit it again from a different angle. Then once more from the top. The lock beeped, confused. Then the door slid open. Percussive maintenance, Mike declared. Works every time. They stepped into the reactor chamber and immediately wished they hadn't. The heat was incredible, like standing inside an oven. Their radiation detectors screamed warnings. The reactor core sat in the center, glowing an angry red that hurt to look at. Coolant pipes had burst, spraying fluid that evaporated before it hit the ground. Control panels sparked and died. And the main control station was completely destroyed, its screens shattered and wires melting. Oh, that's bad, Jack said quietly. Tom rushed to what remained of the controls, his fingers flying over the few panels that still worked. The shutdown sequence needs manual input from inside the core chamber itself. Someone has to go in there. He pointed to a door at the far end. Beyond it, the reactor's heart burned with lethal radiation. How long would someone survive in there? Emma asked. Seconds. Maybe 10 if they're lucky. The radiation would cook them before they finished the sequence. They all looked at each other. They'd known this mission was suicide, but knowing and facing the reality were different things. I'll go, Emma said. No, Lisa argued. I'm faster. I can. Wait, Mike interrupted, staring at the broken controls. His eyes had that distant look he got when solving problems. We don't need to shut it down properly. We just need to make it fail safely. What? Look. He pointed at the coolant system. The station's safeties are still running on backup power. If we trick the reactor into thinking it's overheating beyond recovery, it'll do an emergency core vent. Dump all the energy into space instead of exploding. That's not in any manual, Tom said. Exactly. That's why it might work. Mike was already moving, pulling open panels and yanking wires. I need everyone working. Emma, reroute that coolant flow. Lisa, disable the temperature regulators. Tom, override the safety limits. Jack, find me something to wedge this valve open. They worked like a machine, each person knowing their part without being told. This was what humans did best. Improvise when the proper solution didn't exist. Sparky beeped urgently, its sensors detecting something they'd missed. A critical connection inside the core chamber that needed to be completed manually. Someone did have to go in after all. Before anyone could move, Sparky rolled toward the chamber door. No, wait, Mike reached for the drone, but it was too fast. Sparky entered the core chamber, rolled to the central panel, and extended its manipulator arm. The radiation overwhelmed it immediately. Its lights flickered. Its plating began to char. But its arm stayed steady, completing the connection. The reactor's emergency systems activated. Vents opened across the station. The deadly energy that would have exploded began bleeding into space in controlled bursts. Sparky's lights went dark. The little drone that Mike had accidentally befriended fell silent forever. "Good bot," Mike whispered, his voice thick. Alarms changed pitch. The red glow began to dim. The reactor was saving itself, venting its fury harmlessly away from Theta 7. "It's working," Tom shouted. Core temperature dropping. "We did it." Then the entire station shook violently. New alarms began screaming. "What now?" Jack yelled. "The coolant vents are overloading. The whole station's going to tear itself apart. We've got maybe 2 minutes." Emma's voice cut through the chaos, calm and clear. "Run. No. Move." They ran. They ran through corridors that were tearing themselves apart. Metal screamed as hull plates buckled. Pipes burst, spraying steam that scalded exposed skin. The floor tilted as the station's rotation became more violent, throwing them against walls. "Faster!" Emma shouted, leading the way with her map clutched in one hand. Behind them, sections of the station were collapsing. Bulkheads slammed shut automatically, sealing off areas. They had to stay ahead of the cascade of failures or they'd be trapped inside a tomb. Lisa jumped over a gap where the floor had simply ceased to exist. Jack slid under a falling beam. Mike's toolbox flew from his grip, decades of trusted tools scattering across the deck. He started to go back for it. "Leave it." Tom grabbed his arm and pulled him forward. They burst into the cargo bay where they'd fought the drones. Half of it was gone now, open to space. The air was being sucked out with a roar like a waterfall. They grabbed onto anything bolted down, pulling themselves hand over hand toward the exit. Tom's grip slipped. For a terrifying second he slid toward the breach. Lisa lunged, caught his wrist, and hauled him back with strength that surprised them both. "Thanks," he gasped. "Run first, thank later." The corridor to their shuttle was ahead. So close. 50 meters. 40. 30. A massive explosion rocked the station. The reactor was venting too fast, tearing the structure apart from the inside. The corridor in front of them buckled, twisted, and collapsed. Their path was blocked by tons of wreckage. "No, no, no." Jack pounded his fist against the twisted metal. "There." Emma pointed to a ventilation shaft, its cover blown off by the explosion. It was narrow, dark, and probably led nowhere useful. But it was the only option. They climbed in, crawling through the tight space as the station died around them. Emergency lights flickered and died. The metal beneath their hands grew hot. Smoke filled the shaft, making them cough and their eyes water. Mike went first, his thick shoulders barely fitting. Then Lisa, Tom, Jack. Emma brought up the rear. Behind her, she could hear sections of the station imploding, the destruction chasing them like a hungry beast. The shaft opened up, dumping them out 10 meters above their shuttle. They fell, hitting the deck hard. No time to check for injuries. No time for anything but survival. "Everyone in," Emma ordered. They threw themselves through the shuttle's airlock. Jack was in the pilot's seat before his harness was even fastened, his hands flying over controls. "She's not starting." Panic edged into his voice. "The power coupling is fried from the EMP. Bypass it." Mike yelled, already pulling up floor panels to access the systems. "With what?" "I don't have tools." "Use your hands. Reroute everything to the main engine." Outside the window they could see the station coming apart. Chunks of hull were breaking off, tumbling into space. The glow from the reactor vents was blinding. Jack's fingers found the power coupling. It was hot enough to burn, but he didn't let go. He ripped it free and jammed the connections together manually, holding them in place. "Try it now." Emma hit the ignition. Nothing. Again. Nothing. The station's death throes were getting louder, closer. "Come on, baby," Jack whispered to the shuttle. "Don't quit on me now." Third try. The engines coughed, sputtered, then roared to life with a sound that was the most beautiful thing any of them had ever heard. "Go, go, go," Tom screamed. But they were wedged in the station's damaged hull. Jack fired the engines. The shuttle strained but didn't move. They were stuck. Full power. Emma commanded. "That'll tear us apart." "Do it anyway." Jack shoved the throttle to maximum. The engine screamed in protest. Metal groaned. Something in the shuttle's frame cracked with a sound like a gunshot. Then, with a terrible rending noise, they tore free. The shuttle launched from the dying station, trailing sparks and pieces of its own hull. Behind them, the mining station reached its breaking point. The reactor vents overloaded in a cascade of light that turned night into day. Jack saw an explosion blooming right behind them. Instead of running from it, he angled the shuttle to catch the edge of the blast wave. "What are you doing?" Lisa shrieked. "Surfing." The explosion hit them like a giant hand, propelling them forward at impossible speed. The shuttle tumbled, its frame groaning, alarms screaming. Jack fought the controls, barely keeping them from spinning into oblivion. They shot away from the station just as it imploded completely, its mass collapsing into a ball of venting energy that slowly dissipated into space. The reactor's power bled harmlessly into the void, exactly as Mike's crazy plan had intended. Theta 7 was safe. "Status report," Emma said, coughing smoke from her lungs. "Port engine is dead. Starboard is at 20%. Life support is failing. Hull breaches on every deck. We're on fire in 3 places," Tom rattled off. "But we're alive." "Mission Control, this is Lucky Break," Emma spoke into the radio. "Station neutralized. Theta 7 is secure. We are, mostly intact." The radio exploded with cheering so loud it hurt their ears. 2 hours later, the battered shuttle limped into the Council Station's hangar bay, trailing smoke and coolant. It looked like it had been through a war. Because it had. The airlock opened and 5 humans stumbled out, covered in soot and burns and bruises. Their hair was singed. Their clothes were torn. They moved like everything hurt. And they were smiling. The entire Galactic Council had gathered to meet them. Hundreds of beings from dozens of species, all standing in absolute silence as the humans emerged. Ambassador Vrel approached slowly, his face showing emotions his translator couldn't name. How did you survive?" Emma shrugged, wincing as the movement pulled injured muscles. "Duct tape, stubbornness, and really good teamwork. You defied every calculation, every probability, every law of physics we hold sacred." "Yeah," Tom agreed, leaning heavily on Lisa. "We're good at that." "But why?" Vrel's voice cracked. "You knew you would probably die. Why did you go anyway?" Emma looked at the hologram display still showing Theta 7, where 5 million people were going about their lives, completely unaware how close death had come. Kids were still playing. Parents were still working. The sun was still rising. "Because somebody had to try," she said simply. "And because probably dead isn't the same as definitely dead." The council erupted in applause that shook the hangar. Species that had never agreed on anything all agreed on this. The humans were either the bravest creatures in the galaxy or completely insane. Probably both. The council offered official commendations, medals, monetary rewards. They asked what humanity wanted in return for saving 5 million lives. Jack looked around at his crew. They were alive. Against all odds, against all mathematics, they'd done the impossible and lived to tell about it. Then he noticed Emma's hands were empty. "Hey boss, where's your beer?" Emma's eyes widened. "I left it in the council chamber." They found it exactly where she'd set it hours ago, still sitting on the console. The bottle was warm now, the condensation long dried. Emma picked it up and held it high. "To Sparky," she said quietly. "To Sparky," her crew echoed. They each took a drink, passing the bottle around. A toast to a brave little drone who'd sacrificed itself to save millions it would never meet. That night, Ambassador Vrel filed his official report to the Galactic Council Central Archives. His hands shook as he typed. "The human species has proven themselves unlike any species we have encountered. They do not accept impossible odds. They do not surrender to mathematics. When faced with certain death, they simply refuse to die. Recommend that all future missions deemed impossible be offered to humans first. They seem to specialize in achieving the unachievable. Note: keep all alcoholic beverages away from them during mission briefings. Apparently, it activates something in their psychology that makes them more dangerous than any weapon we possess." Across the galaxy, word of the mission spread. A new phrase entered common use among spacefaring species, repeated in 100 different languages with a mixture of awe and fear. "Hold my beer." It meant, watch what happens when humans decide the universe's rules don't apply to them. It meant, impossible is just a challenge waiting to be accepted. It meant, sometimes the craziest plan is the one that works. On Theta 7, 5 million people slept peacefully under their stars, never knowing that their continued existence was thanks to 5 humans, a roll of duct tape, and a little drone named Sparky who'd been brave when it mattered most. And somewhere in the council archives, a bottle of beer sat in a display case with a small plaque beneath it. Hold my beer, the day humans taught the galaxy that mathematics is merely a suggestion.